that opportunity I almost didn't take,
Talk to me about that.
So, well, in that opportunity sort of came up, and I was in university. I think it was 2013 when that was happening, and I was just starting to, not really starting, I guess at that point I had already been, you know, performing a little bit more, but I was still really like, you know, I didn't really want to pursue it. I didn't think that I could make this a career, so I tried to keep, you know, my performing and, you know, sharing of my songs and my talent and stuff to a minimum. But when that opportunity came up, I almost said no because of first of all, where it was going to be, because it was at the WFCU Center. And I knew that, I think the capacity in there is like 8,000 people. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was going to be televised, and I knew
what was the biggest crowd you had played to up to that point?
I sang actually in the Coliseum when I was 19 at it was the California Dreamin' tribute show. It was a 60s tribute show. So I had done that, and I think it's 6,000 people there. So that was the biggest crowd up until that point. But yeah, I almost didn't do it, and because we were actually performing with Susie McNeil, who is a Canadian artist as well. So just knowing, you know, and it comes back to you just worrying about what other people think and feeling like you're not good enough. And you know, anytime I heard of anybody who had any, you know, any sort of experience that trumped mine, I was like, I don't want to do it, I'm scared. But right. And that's sort of what happened, right? So I almost gave it up, but I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because my dad actually, we like won that contest. So he had written the theme song and it was chosen. So he decided to do it, and he had my voice on the recording. So it was either going to be me doing it live or somebody else was going to do it. And I was so close to saying no, but I didn't. I stuck it out, and I think that was the turning point for me, because
Do you remember the mental conversation you had with yourself through that?
Yes.
Talk to me
and
about that.
So at this point in my life, I had started doing exactly that, talking myself through it, as opposed to just saying no and, you know, dismissing it. So that opportunity in particular, I remember saying to myself, like, my immediate reaction was like, no, don't do it. And I started shaking, and I was like sweating, and I'm like, you can't do it. Like, what if you crack in front of people, or what if you forget the words, or you start going through every negative thing that you could. And yeah, I almost didn't do it. But then I reeled myself in, and I said, okay. So like what I started doing was, and something that a lot of people don't know about me is that when I was in university, I actually, I went to see a psychologist. And I did that for that reason, because I had really bad anxiety, and I just couldn't deal with things that were happening around me. I get overwhelmed, and like I start talking myself out of things because of all, you know, my insecurities. And so that was around that time. So I had started actually, you know, dissecting what was going on, and I said to myself, okay, like you're nervous, of course, because it's a brand new opportunity. And I started talking myself through it, like, just do the opportunity, because you know that you've done this in the past where you give stuff up and then you feel even worse later, right? And I knew at that point that, you know, I kept coming back to music as much as it was, you know, scary for me. I always went back to it somehow. And so I said, you know, give yourself this chance to enjoy this opportunity. Like, why are you doing this to yourself, you know? And I did. It was hard. It was very, very, very difficult. But after that performance...
How old were you?
So I would have been 23.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So maybe a question you don't even have perspective on.
Sure.
How much of that do you think is just growing up?
I'm sure a lot of it was. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of it was. Because, I mean, but however, I do think that talking to somebody helped me. I think they gave me the tools to sort of like help myself go through stuff like that, and realize, like, you know, it's a normal thing to get overwhelmed, but you just have to, like, you know, be present and try to talk yourself through it, as opposed to just like giving stuff up all the time. And
but it's amazing to me how just that little bit is enough.
You know what it was though for me, I think when that happened specifically, I was starting to say, when I got off stage right after it happened, I ran off stage and I saw my dad backstage, and I bawled. And if you ask him about this, he'll tell you it was like the most surreal moment ever. But I have never felt that amount of happiness in my life. And when I was on stage, I just knew, like, it was just like this moment of like, yes, like this is what I'm supposed to feel, you know? And I'd never felt like that before. It doesn't matter, you know, what I've done ever since. If I'm not on stage, like I don't get the same feeling doing other things. And that was the first time that I had like really experienced that. Like you actually have something that you could actually do this, you know? And ever since then I've been chasing that feeling, you know?
Yeah.
I really have. But I think it was just, you know, the moment of like looking at my dad and like realizing I could do it, and then just like I bawled. I ran right to him and I just gave him a huge hug, and I was just like bawling. And I remember after that day I had a conversation. So I was still in university at this time, and we were driving somewhere, I don't know where we were, but I remember saying to him, I'm like, Dad, like, this is what I want to do. And I said that to him, and he's like, okay. All right. So what are we gonna